I believe, recording is pending. And we are recording now, and I will share my screen.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. This is Wednesday, June 30, 2021. This is a special meeting of the Vermont Clean Water Board. We have a quorum in attendance, and it looks like we have many guests. So this is a meeting to talk about the surplus that was realized and adopted by the board and the emergency board as it related to some general fund revenues that went into the Clean Water Fund in January. And so we're going to review the Clean Water Operating Statement with Julie and perhaps members of her team. And then we could scroll, Emily, we can look at the rest of the agenda. There'll be a discussion by Secretary Tebbetts about the agricultural best practices and the challenges that they're facing there. And then we will talk about whether to adopt a recommendation along the lines contained in the materials for the meeting. So are there any questions, concerns, or thoughts around changing the agenda from board members? Okay, seeing or hearing none, I think we can continue with the we have no minutes to review today, is that right, Emily, on the agenda?
There are a couple of draft minutes that need approval, but I believe we were planning to wait until the next full board meeting for that action item.
Okay, that makes sense. So Secretary Moore, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Secretary Young. So as folks may recall, this document that Emily currently has up on the screen was actually shared with the Clean Water Board at our meeting back in January, where we were looking at the updated revenue forecast following that meeting earlier that month of the Emergency Board. The Emergency Board makes specific recommendations regarding the assumptions around the property transfer tax and the rooms and meals tax. They don't look at the unclaimed bottle deposits or sheets. But based on the performance of the property transfer tax and the rooms and meals tax, our overall revenue forecast at that point, and if you could scroll down a little bit more, Emily, increased by over $1 million. And then in addition to that, we had about $400,000 worth of unallocated and unreserved funds sort of on the bottom line of the FY21 budget. This means as of January, we were anticipating ending the fiscal 21 year with a balance of at least $1.4 million. The Emergency Board is slated to meet again at the end of July and will actually provide an updated revenue forecast that looks through the whole of fiscal year 21. We have received a preliminary indication from the tax department who tracks these revenue sources, but can't actually realize that revenue. But they've indicated they believe that total is now closer to $3 million of unallocated and unreserved revenue will be available in the Clean Water Fund once the Emergency Board meets. In a second, I'll turn it over to Secretary Tebbetts, but the proposal in front of the board today is to consider whether to take that 1.44 million of unallocated, unreserved Clean Water Fund balance that has already been sort of approved or realized by the Emergency Board and allocated to work in FY22. As you may recall, board policy is generally that those unallocated, unreserved balances are actually carried forward into the following fiscal year and made part of the budget process. So absent a change by the board, our normal policy would be to take those unallocated, unreserved dollars and roll them into the FY23 budget process. This is a little bit of uncharted territory for us. However, obviously, there's so much uncertainty in FY20 around the impacts of the COVID pandemic. We did make some rather conservative assumptions in developing the FY21 budget, which are further complicated by some of the challenges in the construction sector that I'll let Secretary Tebbetts speak to. But at this point, we do have that $1.4 million of unallocated, unreserved revenue in the Clean Water Fund. and maybe can stop there and answer questions folks have before turning it over to Secretary Tebbetts. Right, Emily, I'm not seeing any questions unless you are, so maybe turn it over to Anson.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about this issue. Again, Anson Tebbetts from the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. We've provided you a detailed memo for your consideration, but I'll just issue some of the highlights for all you folks. The Agency of Agriculture receives applications for something we call BMPs, which are best management practices. It's been around for a while. This year's applications have resulted in about $2 million in requests above the available funding in the best management practice program. So we received about $2 million more in requests. So why is this happening? Well, there's some great work that's being done out there on the farm. Despite some of the economic conditions out there for our farmers, they continue to do the work to improve the environment. Farmers are investing their money. USDA, NRCS is investing money. And of course, the state of Vermont is investing money to protect the environment. So it really speaks to a lot of work that's been being done over a period of time. Some factors that are forecasting why we are asking for this additional money. One is, we're doing more inspection, more enforcement. We've got more engineering and technical assistance that's out on the ground again, and also the outreach and education about this program and the impact it has and how it improves the environment. So that's all coming into play. And on that, on top of that, I think we've all heard about some of the demands and the cost of construction because of COVID and some of the supply chain issues and et cetera. So we are seeing some increased costs associated with construction. So that's playing a factor as well. So what we're asking the board to do today is to endorse taking these funds that are available now, and we're looking at about $1.4 million. And we'd like to get that approved so we can do some work this summer, allowing us this endorsement will allow us to continue to use this construction season, which we know is really valuable. We've got a few more months to get out there and do some of this with USDA and NRCS and some of our partners. We'd ask for your endorsement, and I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. Again, we've seen the impact and what this program does. Agriculture is right now about 96% of the reductions are coming from the agriculture sector through the data and the science. So we know it's working, and we just don't want to slow down, and we want to continue to do that. We've seen about 59 infrastructure projects that this would help over time. So we've seen increased demand. The money is there, and we'd ask for your endorsement of this. Happy to take any questions.
So let's open it up to questions for Secretary Tebbetts. And if board members have any technical questions around the FY22 budget and next steps vis-a-vis that budget, should we take this action, we have Emily Byrne available, the CFO at ANR, and so we can open it up for questions and discussion.
Anson, Chad Tyler here. So you're saying this funding is pretty much already allocated to projects that are up and running?
Well, they're in the planning stages. So if we're going to have to probably delay someone if we don't get this additional funding. So there's a cost share program here with USDA and RCS. They're excited about this if we can get this money, so we can just keep this train going, so we don't have to delay. The need is out there, and it's coming together at the right time. So I think if we don't get the funding, things we'll continue to do others that have been, what money we do have, but this will just keep the ball moving on these important, infrastructure projects that are happening on farms.
Secretary has his hand raised.
Joe?
Thank you. Thanks, Emily. So Anson, just to understand this clearly, these are already projects the board had discussed before, and you're asking to use some of this surplus revenue that we've acquired to further build out those projects, to also recognize the fact that there are some supply chain costs perhaps that are affecting the projects previously decided, and you just want to continue along that manner with these excess funds.
Yeah, Secretary Flynn, a couple of things. One, some of these are in the planning stages and the need is there because of some of the, the cost overruns, but also we can fund some new ones that need to be done as well. So it's like a twofold. It's the ones that are, we probably can allocate a few extra dollars to some of those projects, but we also can do the ones that are in the pipeline that need to be done. Some of these projects take, sometimes 2 to 3 years. You got to go out and do the assessment. How it's just like building a bridge. It takes some time to do it and design it, and so that's happening out on the ground as well. So yeah, it's twofold.
Well, I know we've spent a lot of time talking about the good work that's been done and can continue to be done on the farm for this topic, and so I think personally it sounds like a good idea.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions about this before we entertain a motion of Secretary Tebbets and or the technical financial staff?
I just want to say kudos to the agency for moving these projects along and the groundwork that you've laid in the past and the very positive momentum that you've made in this direction. Really impressive to see.
And thank you. For the record, I can't see your name on the screen because there's a document up, which is fine. Could you identify yourself just so we...
Sure. I'm Allison Conant.
Okay, thank you, Allison. All right, so I just have a quick question, so we're all clear. This is money that we realized and has been, basically booked by the Clean Water Board as of January. And is that accurate? And it's now in our reserve fund. Okay. Is that accurate? I guess I'll just ask Emily for just some verification. So if we were to entertain a motion to expend this money in the 2022 budget, will we go forth with our budget adjustment for FY22 and ask and adjust there with the legislature, or is that necessary?
I can jump in, Emily. This is Emily Byrne from the Agency of Natural Resources. Yes, that's my understanding that we would go forward with a budget adjustment to realize the remaining of the spending authority for this, but they'll be able to move forward in 22 based on board approval.
Okay. And if the legislature does not approve this in budget adjustment, we would just have to adjust the second half of the fiscal year spending to offset that. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. Yes.
All right. Are there any more questions of either Anson or the finance staff?
Secretary Young, I do see that an attendee, Jill Arachi, has her hand raised. If you'd like to entertain any other questions beyond the board, or if you prefer to wait till public comment.
If the board has no objection, I think we could open this to public comment before we entertain the motion. I think that would be prudent.
Thank you. Jill, go ahead.
Thanks very much. I just wanted to say we strongly support this this move, and I wanted to explain a little bit about the interface between the Agency of Ag programs and the NRCS programs. Oh, by the way, for people who don't know, I'm the executive director of the Vermont Association of Conservation Districts. So the districts are in the role of providing education and outreach about both Agency of Ag and NRCS programs, as well as technical assistance, which, brings farmers to the table to implement these projects. And there's a very strong coordination between the Agency of Ag and NRCS. And generally, the NRCS process is slower than the Agency of Ag process. So farmers do look to the Agency of Ag for things they want to implement more urgently or to fill gaps in NRCS funding. So I just wanted to share that piece of how these pieces fit together. There's a very strong collaboration among all the partners doing this work, and we very much support this additional funding for farmers to implement BMPs.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Emily, do you see any other hands raised from our public?
I do not see any other hands raised at this time, but if this is the formal public comment portion of the agenda, I'll just remind folks that if you would like to comment, to raise your hand, and then we can call upon you.
Okay, if you could put the agenda back up, Emily, we can take up item 3 and entertain the motion as outlined in the agenda.
Can you see the agenda now? Secretary Young, you're muted.
We are on item number 4, and I'll entertain a motion. There is a draft motion in the agenda, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendation to add $1.4 million to the FY24 Clean Water Fund, unallocated unreserved revenue to the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets. Line items, water quality, grants to partners and farmers in the FY22 Clean Water budget.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. And then is there any discussion? Okay. Hearing no discussion and seeing no hands raised, we'll take action on the draft motion as appearing in the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Has anyone recused themselves? Okay. With that, I'm happy to, open it up to any final public comment if any of our visitors would like to comment. Okay. Quiet group this morning. All right. Then I appreciate everybody taking time out of their summer day to address this this issue, and appreciate your attendance and your involvement. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay. Second.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, great. Stay cool. Have a good summer. We will be scheduling a meeting to take up, I think, the FY22 budget after the July e-board meeting, and then we'll start in earnest on preparing the FY23. The budget cycle never ends. So thanks very much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank
Aye.
you all. Really appreciate the support. Thank you.